All right, welcome to this week's Social Justice Politicast for the week of May 18th. This week you have Gabe, and I'm joined with.
Hi, my name's Elaine.
Thank you so much, Elaine, for coming on today and helping us do this week's breakdown of items that we had flagged for the agenda. But before we do that, I wanted to do a quick recap of something we had flagged last week. We had flagged item 37 from the Board of Supervisors meeting, which was that MOU that we talked about, which would have authorized the Sac Sheriff Department to participate in the Sacramento-San Francisco Homeland Security Task Force and retroactively provide $500,000 for the work done on this task force. The Sheriff's Department sent Lieutenant Grassman to convince the supervisors why this MOU was needed. Supervisors Cerna and Kennedy pushed back on Grassman about the inclusion of ICE in the MOU, and Grassman's response was alarming, to say the least. You can actually check the video clip out on our social media. We have it on our feed. Essentially, he stated that the inclusion of ICE in the MOU was because they had used a national template and it shouldn't have been included, given Sacramento's status as a sanctuary city. Grassman then tried to backpedal and state that there was no way that the sheriff's department would cooperate with ICE or share money and resources with them. But that kind of begs the question, why were they specifically mentioned in the MOU? The item did end up passing despite over 40 public comments against it from the community. And it was passed in a 3-2 vote. We know that there's been a lot of community awareness that's been raised about the collaboration between SAC PD and DHS and ICE, but the sheriff's department often acts with even less transparency and accountability. Um, Possibly because their meetings are at 9:30 in the morning on a Tuesday. But this is particularly alarming given the items that we have flagged for this week's Board of Supervisors meeting, which we'll get to in a second. But first, I'm going to pass it over to Elaine to break down our first items that we flagged for the first meeting.
Sacramento City Council is going to be meeting this Tuesday, May 19th at 2 p.m. And we've flagged agenda item number 12 for y'all. This is the audit of the Sacramento Police Department Evidence and Property section. So, this audit has a number of recommendations for the mayor and council to review, but one item of particular importance is the city staff's suggestion to partner with the Department of Community Response, or DCR, to explore contracting with a qualified third-party provider to collect, store, and return personal property that is confiscated from people who are unhoused when they're detained, rather than throwing away their personal belongings. This could include, but not be limited to, their medical supplies, food, shelter, water, identification documents, sentimental items, and more. Gabe, do you want to talk about the next flagged item?
Yeah, so then at on the same day, May 19th at 5 p.m., we flagged a couple of items for the 5 o'clock City Council. The first is item number one, which is the Natomas Basin Habitat Conservation Plan fee adjustment. So this increase would bring the total to $47,567 per acre of development, and this would be paid by developers who build in the Natomas Basin Habitat Conservation Plan. This appears to be a fairly routine fee hike, but we are pointing it out because the council members who oversee this area are Karina Telemontis and Lisa Kaplan. Kaplan being someone who often finds herself on the wrong side when it comes down to developers versus the environment. And since she is running for re-election in a pretty contentious race, it might be worth turning in just to see what she does and if she decides to atone for her previous sins of always siding with developers and businesses. We've also flagged item number two, which is the fiscal year 26-27 proposed budget deliberation and council direction. So this is just the latest in the ongoing budget deliberations. Last week, city staff laid out several budget scenarios with various cuts to city services and fee increases to be decided on by council to make up for the $66 million deficit. So as I mentioned last week, there was 608 proposed fee increases and new fees that city staff has laid out for council to look at. And they must approve a new budget by Tuesday, June 9th. So we'll keep you up to date as we get closer to that date. But it is important for folks to just show up to these meetings, hear what's going on, and we'll try to break those things down as they get closer to a decision. Our next meeting is our Sac County Board of Supervisors Tuesday at 9:30 a.m. We flagged item number 40, which is the authorization to execute a memorandum of understanding with the Federal Bureau of Investigation for the participation in the high-tech organized crime task force. All right, so here we go again. So the High Tech Organized Crime Task Force is a multi-agency task force composed of federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies that work to locate, investigate, and apprehend individuals in high-tech organized crime. So after last week's MOU debacle, these types of agreements should be highly scrutinized by our supervisors and the public. They create a precedent for more federal involvement in local law enforcement agencies, and that's just a recipe for disasters. It will surely lead to more draconian sheriff's department, which then kind of leads us into our next flagged item, which is 45, an authorization to execute a memorandum of understanding between SAC Sheriff's Office and the California Highway Patrol for participation with the Central California Intelligence Center with embedded California Highway Patrol personnel. All right, so the Central California Intelligence Center, whose core mission is to fuse public safety information and intelligence to support the prevention, detection, and response to terrorism and criminal activity. They're funded directly through the Homeland Security Grant Program. Okay, so think Kash Patel, who oversees that department, or the FBI, anyways. This should raise some serious red flags for the community. Not only does SAC Sheriff Department not have a history of dismantling terrorist plots, but given the federal government's recent expansion of the definition of terrorist, it's not difficult to see how this would be used to crack down, harass, spy on activists, or any organization that the sheriff's department or federal government deems not to be fascist enough for them, or is against the status quo. So definitely, if you have the ability, the 9:30 a.m. meeting on Tuesday for the Board of Supervisors meeting, we really need to have those highlighted, scrutiny on the SAC Sheriff's Department. But then our final flagged item is a special meeting, and I'll turn it over to Elaine for that one.
Yeah, thank you. That special meeting is going to be held between County of Sacramento reps and City of Sacramento reps on Wednesday, May 20th at 2 p.m. We flagged item number 1 for a status update on the independent assessment of the Sacramento Housing and Redevelopment Agency by CVR and Associates, Inc. So this is really a continuation of a joint meeting held by the county and city back in October of 2025. Supervisors and council members at that time brought on CVR Associates to conduct an assessment of the Sacramento Housing Redevelopment Agency, or SHRA, which serves as the public housing authority and primary administrator of federal, state, and local housing development programs. While the Sacramento Housing Redevelopment Agency has a history of problems and there have been plenty of legitimate concerns levied against them, SHRA is often the only thing standing between vulnerable people and homelessness. So we flagged this item to see what this very expensive assessment will reveal and what, if anything, will our elected leaders do with this information gathered from the assessment.
Yeah, this is one of those rare instances where the county and the city will be at the same place at the same time. They often don't work well with each other, and it is one of the reasons why there is so much criticism with how one, either the county or the city handles homelessness. So it is definitely something that's worth paying attention to. Those are the items that we have flagged for this week. Always remember to check the agenda tracker in our bio to keep up to date with items that we've flagged and our analysis of them and how it kind of fits into the purview of what SJPC does. And again, if anyone is ever interested in jumping on as a co-host like Elaine has so graciously done today, there is a form to fill out in our bio. So thank you so much, Elaine, for taking the time out today to help us with these agenda flags.
Of course, bye everyone.
Thank you.